Hello, and thank you for tuning in. You are tuned in to The Encourager, and my name is Nehru. I haven't been on in several days, but I wanted to come on today as promised, and I wasn't already throat chakra throat chakra attacks already. I was doing perfectly fine. Perfectly fine before I pressed record. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Good morning. Hello to you, wherever you are, wherever you find yourself in your journey here on this planet. I can assure you that journey is an interesting one, and that is putting it as lightly as it can be put. Yeah. So anyway, my name is Nehru again. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are a new subscriber, and we are growing literally on a daily basis. We're up to 90 subscribers just a month ago, and it may not seem like a significant jump to others, but for me, I'm thankful for each and every one. So, a month ago when I was at 60 and now I'm at 90, that's significant. That might even be significant for someone else and in their growth. But again, for me, I'm thankful for all of you. And whoever you are, again, whether you come with high vibration energy or you come with karmic energy or, I don't know, I was going to say atheism, but even atheists believe in something. And if you don't believe me, just watch what happens when catastrophe strikes. The majority of them are definitely going to pray. Who are they praying to if they don't believe in God? They do believe in some higher deity that can help them in those situations. So most of them are lying. They're just frustrated. But I wanted to come on today, and as I mentioned, I wanted to share some on the 67th, and that's a 13, by the way. We know how significant that number is for us, and not just myself, but for you as well, although the translation might be different. So, a sperm donor who's serving 40 to 60 years in a Michigan prison, turned 67 yesterday, and so I wanted to come on and share a little bit. Of course, that's a 24, and yeah. So I wanted to come on and just share a little bit about him again. More so, a lot of this is found in the earlier videos that are titled something along the lines of My Polygamist Family. But yes, so for those of you who do not know, this individual who I grew up understanding was my father. He was my best friend growing up. He was my best friend probably close friend until probably 2003. No, 2002 probably. Yeah, 2002, when I was initially ETSing out of the military. And so a little bit about him, born on the south side of Chicago. He is kind of in the middle. There were 8 of them. He's kind of in 8. Let me see. Berlin, Anthony, Sharma, Kevin, Tyrone, Michelle, Emmett. Yeah, 8. Okay. And so their elder brother, Berlin, who's named after their father, he was supposedly shot at a bar in Joliet, Illinois. When I started going through my dark night of the soul, first of all, I had always gotten indications that there was something fishy about that situation. So even growing up, they told me that I had a lot of his fire, a lot of his, and I I don't remember the birth date because there's nothing to be found online about him, which is really, really strange. Even going back to 74, excuse me. You know, they kept obviously very good records back in 74, birth records, death records. By that time, the system was a well-oiled machine for record keeping, right? So, but you can't find anything interesting, okay? Second thing is I called the Joliet Police Department, okay, Joliet, Illinois. Called them and asked them about a case involving a Berlin Thomas that I'm looking into. I am his nephew. Okay? You know what they told me? They told me they have no such record. When I told Judy this, okay, she's the one who I grew up believing was my mother. When I told Judy this, she didn't have anything to say. She just kind of looked at me with a blank face. She literally had nothing to say. When I say nothing, I don't mean like, wow, that's strange, that's weird. What? Really? That has to be a mistake. Nothing. She just looked like, like nothing. And then she went on to mention something else. Okay? Right? That was right before I left Florida, which was August of last year. Okay? So he was born on the south side of Chicago in 1957. Okay? Again, he is the middle child, born to Odessa and Berlin Sr., moved to Lockport, Illinois when he was 6 years old. He was a very smart child, very smart kid, but extremely promiscuous and narcissistic, okay? So I've heard stories about him when he was a kid. He was caught in the bushes, almost about to suck some kid's little weenie, okay? This is as a small child, okay? And I understand that we all go through our curious stage, right? When we're just at puberty, right before, right after, whatever. We all go through our little curious stage, or many of us do, and whatever, right? I understand that. Most of that's not acted upon, however. Well, most of it's just, I don't know, it's just a phase that lasts a second because we're curious about ourselves. So we're naturally curious about others, right? Who I don't know, have the same thing. It's like discovering a new toy. Yeah, that's essentially what it is, right? So, yeah, right. But anyway, he also tried to get high by drinking gasoline. Again, this is when he was a kid. Okay? And so his parents lived in that house on Berry Avenue in Lockport, Illinois for many, many, many years. In fact, the house between the the land between Judy's house and Kevin's house, there was nothing in between those houses. It was across the big, large field. And it was probably 2/3 of a mile apart. And it was just nothing in between them. And even still to this day, there's nothing built between those two places. And Judy's father's house that she grew up in is the only house left on that block. The only one. Everything else has been demolished on that entire street or block on both sides. So there's some significance there spiritually with their connection and all of that, right? That may or may not be revealed to me at some point in time. But anyway, okay? So, yeah, so he moved to Lockport, Illinois when he was 6 years old. Went to Fairmont Elementary, went to Lockport High School. I think back then it might have been called like Lockport East or something like that. I don't know. And enlisted into the Navy and served 4 years in the Navy, from what I understand. It would be interesting to see his naval record, the reason why he was discharged, what type of discharge it was. It would be interesting to see his DD-214. So, also, Berlin served in the Navy. Okay, Berlin Jr., the one who supposedly got killed, 10-10 on the timer, got killed by someone at a bar in Joliet because he was trying to hit on someone's girlfriend. No record of that in Joliet's police department's files. Okay? And so, he goes off to the Navy, right? Gets married, all right? I am born before he goes into the Navy, and I believe my brother Matthew is born while he's in the Navy, shortly after he goes into the Navy, I believe, okay? And so, and that brother passed again on 8/4 of 2021 at the age of 45, no doubt by witchcraft or some stupid ass, something that they were doing, okay? There's a major mistake I need to correct. So when I was talking about Matthew, when I was talking about his passing on 8/4 of 2021, what I failed to mention, or I didn't fail to mention, I misspoke. And I said, I misspoke about the location of the place where he was in prison. He was in or near, it wasn't in the city, it was near, is it near Pensacola? In the Panhandle, way up there in the Panhandle, almost near Alabama. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on whether or not that's correct. I don't know. But yes, okay. So, and I don't have, I don't want to stop the recording to look for it or anything. But anyway, yes. So, finished up the Navy, then and got married while he was in the Navy. Okay, had 2 children. Their names are, we call one T. Her name is Latia, but we call her T. And Daniel. Okay, so here are his 3rd and 4th children. Okay, in the late 70s. Okay, gets out of the Navy, leaves that woman in Virginia Beach, goes back to Illinois. Okay, and perhaps he was. So when he was in the Navy, he was in Orlando for his naval training. Okay, that's extremely important, and the reason why we moved to Florida. What all that is, I don't know, but I know he always had plans to come back to Central Florida for whatever reason. Again, for whatever was going on back in the 70s when he was here, who knows what that is. Okay? Right? Connections he made, misdeeds that were done. He's literally like the Don Juan of the polygamist world. Like that's who he is. Okay? Right? You see the picture of him? That picture was taken 3 years ago. Okay? That's the image that I used for this video, or cover page that I used for this video. Wow, serious throat chakra. Wow. That's like fire. Wow. So yeah. So anyway, so yes, so moving to Florida, so there's definitely something related between him going to Florida in 1970s when he was in the Navy and being stationed at the Naval Training Center, and him coming back here in 1991 or back there, I'm not there anymore, in 1991 when the woman that he got with after the Navy, Janice, who passed in 2008, decided she was going to leave. Okay, in 1989, then he decided, or 1990, then he decided he wanted to relocate, and Florida is where he picked. We had gone on a vacation just a year prior there. I keep saying here, there, And so I was like 15 maybe at that time. And we did a lot at that time. I mean, I don't think that was the year. Was that the year? That might have been a year. No, Mardi Gras was another year maybe. Yeah, maybe Mardi Gras was a different year. But anyway, yeah, he took his teenage son to Mardi Gras. Here's a minister, by the way. He's a minister. Right. 1980 was his last known employment. Okay. And that was working at a bank in Chicago. We believe that is where he met Janice, who would go on to have, again, 2 children. Okay. All women had 2 children by him with the exception of 1. Okay. And she might have had 2. She probably had not an abortion, but she probably miscarried or something at some point. Okay. So, and her name is Diane. Okay. And so he gets with Janice, right? They relocate to New Orleans. When they get to New Orleans, they hook up with Diane. Diane now, currently today, lives in Virginia Beach, Virginia, with her daughter, my sister, Amanda. Okay? Amanda is approaching 40. Interestingly enough for both of them, someone might be experiencing this. Interestingly for both of them, I'm being encouraged to mention this. Both of them have difficulty seeing. They have very, very bad vision. Very bad vision. Diane today is declared legally blind, and I think she was actually in the 80s. She couldn't even drive. Her eyesight was that bad, and she was in her 30s, 40s, or not even 40s, like 20s maybe, right? And unfortunately, she's passed that trait on to her daughter, or her daughter has picked up that trait, Amanda. Okay, very, very, very challenged eyesight. Okay, so, but Amanda's extremely artistic. Okay, she's very, 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 very artistic. In fact, all of us that come from that side of the family that has that bloodline or that gene bloodline from Kevin are artistic in some way, shape, form, fashion. Musical instruments, and that's all of us, boys and girls, in the family. And there's 17 of us. Okay, I'm the eldest of 17. 17 is extremely important in my numerology and birth chart this lifetime. Okay. Again, I encourage you to make note of those numbers that are important to you and that are key to you that you see repeated. So every 6 years, this happens. Every 8 years, this, you notice a pattern. Every so often this happens. 13 for me is so important. It continues to reverberate new things to me. Okay. I had someone call me today who might be a part of the scam that's going on against me, quite honestly, because the name Henry is definitely relevant to my situation, and her last name is Henry. Okay. I also know someone who is a high school friend whose last name is Henry. They could be involved too. I don't know. Anyway, so this individual calls me. She has a nonprofit that's based in Lake Mary, Florida. She calls me and she says, today is what day? Today is May 25th. Okay. 990s for nonprofits are due in March. Okay, or 6 months after if you have a fiscal and not a calendar end of year, then it's due 4 months after the end of your calendar, or 3 months after the end of your calendar year ends. Okay. Right. So if your calendar year ends in September, that is due January. Right. 990. Right. For nonprofits. So anyway, she calls me today out of the blue. I have not talked to her the entire year, except for to tell her earlier, and this was last year actually, that I wasn't in Florida anymore. I told her that last year and shared what was going on. That was the only time I talked to her. I haven't talked to her since. No exchanges of email or anything. She reaches out to me on 3 days ago, asked me to give her a call. I gave her a call. She said she was in a meeting. I didn't call her back. She didn't call me back. Got another email from her today. She says, give me a call. I gave her a call. Okay? This is what she says. I was wondering if you could do my taxes this year for her for her nonprofit. And I said, well, I'm really not in that business anymore. I said, I'm dissolving everything this year. I've already sent out emails. The clients that I did have remaining, I said, they've all been notified and and then she proceeded to try to tell me, so I helped her get a, she was looking for a monetary donation in order to purchase a truck. And at the time, there was a grant available that that she was able to get if she could get the money. And this is the way that particular grant worked, okay? So if you got the money to go purchase whatever asset it was that you were wanting for your organization, in her case, it was a refrigerator truck, okay, because she delivers food, groceries, and all that sort of thing, right? So it was a refrigerated truck. The refrigerated truck was $26,000, okay? This same client of mine, who is the attorney, whose name is Brooke Bolts, okay? Bolts Legal, I talked to her about it, shared the information with her about it, because I knew she was looking for extra tax write-offs. I was her accountant at that time for Bolts Legal. And so then again, and that's why it breaks my heart about the issue that was made with their particular tax return. The year that I started dating, or the year I moved in with a Scorpio, I had shingles during that tax season, and I made a serious mistake on her tax return, on the corporate tax return, and advised her to seek a second opinion, and she did, and so on and so forth. And that was just one of the many indicators that things were turning really, really shitty, really, really fast with the Scorpio. That's really all that was. It was a mudslide, right? I also had a dream, and I also told Brooke about this dream that I had where there was a large hole in the ceiling of whatever, office, building, house, and there was water just pouring in. And when I say a large hole, it was a large building, but it was a huge, huge, huge hole in the ceiling, and water was just pouring in, okay? And I'm standing there, her kids are standing there, I can't remember if her husband was standing there. She only has one. Her husband was standing there or not. Yeah. So yes. So anyway, back to Kevin. So, he decides that we're going to move to Florida. He asked me, first of all, and I picked Florida because, again, we had been here just a year prior. So, and we came here in the wintertime. If you want to spoil a kid, you bring a kid to a state where it is summer 300 days out of the year, from a place where it's winter 8 months out of the year. Yeah. They're going to pick that place as paradise. And so I did. And so we did. We moved there again in 1991. Okay. 2 weeks before my junior year of high school started. Okay. Started high school junior year, met my eldest daughter, who I assume is my eldest daughter's mother there. We dated up until I went into the military. We dated for 4.5 years about. Okay. Still today, it's the longest relationship I've ever had. Still today, it's the longest intimate relationship I've ever had. That's pretty sad. Considering that was how many years ago? Even including 2 marriages, I've never had a relationship last longer than that one. Yet. So anyway, yeah. So, and that one wasn't even very long. I mean, it's 4.5 years, but I don't know. I think it's fairly impressive that it was from 16 to 20 something. Like, those are some of the most transitional years in a person's life ever, right? Especially with relationships, typically. So anyway, moved to Castleberry, Florida. He sets up camp. I'm sorry. I skipped a large part. So skipped all of Illinois. So going back to Diane in New Orleans. Diane in New Orleans, she already has a child. But I think they met her at a church, I believe. But things were slim pickings in New Orleans, from what I understand. He stole a car at some point and got arrested, okay, for grand theft, and so what else? In fact, I've never even looked that record up. I probably should do that. Anyway, so yeah, so in New Orleans, he meets Diane, convinces Diane to be a part of them, going to Illinois, start a church, right? He tells her all this, right? Diane's already in the church. Get to Illinois, right? Settle up first in Joliet, and then eventually in Bolingbrook, and then ultimately in Naperville before relocating to Florida, okay? And so getting to Illinois, sets up this church, and it's Pathways for Christ, and it's in Bolingbrook, Illinois. This is in 1984, 85. Okay? Sets this church up. He has Diane and Janice with him currently. Okay? With Kevin and Crystal and no other children currently, because me and my brother Matthew are with Judy living in the projects of Joliet, Illinois. All right? And so he starts this church, and the church is prosperous. But he, through greed or laziness, chose not to do things the way, and I call it those things, but the truth is, it's just the spirit of Azazel. It's just the demonic spirit that took over him, and took over him early on. Okay? So his father taught him witchcraft. Why? Again, I don't know. I've cursed out Berlin from here to Sunday 5 times, 12 days a week for a year about that. Okay? I've let him have it. Okay? And he's apologized, but I've let him have it. Every time something happens, and I know it's because of witchcraft that he's doing, I let Berlin have it. I let him have it. You know, what the fuck were you thinking? Why would you teach your... Don't have me go there, okay? So, anyway, so he decides that he wants to live this lavish lifestyle, but he doesn't want to work for it. His two possible reasons are, one, there were 8 of them. He was a middle child, and he saw how tough it was. He didn't want to live that lifestyle. But he wanted to have more, and he wanted to have more than what his father had. He wanted to have more than what he grew up with. He grew up with beans most days and rice. He didn't want that. Ironically, that's what he fed us most days. Interestingly, while he ate steaks and blueberry pancakes. Right? So he decides that he's going to build this whatever kingdom, quote unquote, and that's what they called it. They call it the kingdom. Literally, that's what they call it. They call it the kingdom. 29 minutes on the clock. So he decides he's going to do this, live this lifestyle, whatever. Jim Jones, I don't know, whatever, whoever. I don't know many polygamists today, so I can't name many of them. Charles Manson, I don't know. But anyway, he decides he's going to do this. I don't know if Charles Manson, I don't know if that was one of his goals, though. I don't know. Anyway, so he starts recruiting these women, single and married women that are coming to his church. Okay? At this time, okay, in 1985, let's just say 85, he's not even 30 years old yet. So he's young and spry, man. Young and spry, right? And again, nice looking guy. Okay? He decides to use witchcraft. Instead of walking upright and in truth, he decides to start using witchcraft to manipulate these women to be under his control. He does this for the next 33 plus years. And over that time, he has Kevin, Matthew, Crystal, Kevin, Matthew, another Kevin. He just has a different name, right? Another Kevin, Crystal, Amanda, David, Stephen, Paul, Jonathan, James, Timothy, Charity, Jacqueline, right? All these kids, these are my siblings. So all of these siblings, I just saw the number on that. I thought about the Black Eyed Peas, the 3008, boom, 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 boom. So anyway, yeah. So once he starts this, right? He gathers in two sisters, two biological sisters. Their name is Denise and Delois, respectively. Okay. He brings them in, same mother, same father. Okay, they were two, both of them were living with friends, actually, in the same community. That community is Beacon Ridge. Beacon Ridge. I was going to say Beacon Ridge, Illinois. Beacon Ridge in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Okay? In fact, his brother, one of his brothers, at least one of them, pastors a church there still in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Okay? And so he decides, that name is Anthony, by the way. He decides that he is going to prostitute these women. And when I say prostitute, I don't mean out on the corner. And he might have done that at some point. I don't know. But that's not what I'm talking about. When I say prostitute, I did a video some time ago about prostitution. And, pimps in the pulpit or pulpit pimps or something like that. It's the cover picture. But that you can prostitute someone and it not be a physical sexual thing. Okay? Several examples. The man or the woman who is lazy and only wants the other companion to work. That person is prostituting the one who they want to work. Okay? The lazy person is prostituting the other individual. So if you're dealing with someone like that, they're treating you like a prostitute. Go get my money, bring it home to me. I ain't doing shit to make it myself. You gonna go make me my money and bring it home to me, bitch, because this is the way it's gonna be. I probably shouldn't say that on YouTube. But this is the way it's gonna be. Right? Hustle and flow. Okay? Although he was hustling to do something. It was devious, but he was hustling to do something. Right? So that movie's so hilarious. That movie just cracks me up all of the time. All of the time. So funny. So my youngest sibling is, I believe she turns 15 this year, maybe 16, maybe 15, somewhere in there. Right? Me being the age that I am, obviously, I am old enough to be her parent. I am old enough to be half of my siblings' parent. And yeah. I only turned 50 this year, and I'm old enough to be half my siblings' parents. So yes. So then, this church is shut down ultimately because of all the chatter. But before he goes, he picks up the core of the women that would follow him for the next 30 years. So amongst those individuals is Denise, Delois, her biological sister, Janet Lucas, who was married when she got to Pathways for Christ. She was married and had a son, Don and Etienne. Okay? Etienne is from another relationship. Okay? Don was with her current husband. Okay? Or Don, yeah, Don Jr. actually was his name. Right? Or is what they called him. Right? Pretty Ricky, what they called him. So when he decides that he's going to do all of that, I get carried away with a little witty comedy, and I want to run away with it sometimes. But so he picked them up along with an ex-girlfriend of one of his brothers, who eventually ended up coming to help pastor that church before it shut down. Tell me that's not some sick shit. So you have your your brother's ex-girlfriend living with you now, and your brother is now coming to help you pastor a church that she is a part of, and living with you and your supposed wife. He never did marry Janice on paper. And what? Well, it could have been innocent enough. Yeah, okay, you keep thinking that. You'll be the one to fall into a trap like that. So, yeah, he decides that he's going to build this kingdom, but he doesn't want to work for it. He saw his dad work for peanuts, and they had beans. He didn't like that. He liked the finer things in life, but he did not want to work for them for whatever reason. Okay? I believe that was something that was just birthed in him. I believe he was just lazy and sneaky cunning by nature. Some people are just... Maybe not. Maybe after the witchcraft he became that way. I'll say that. Maybe after the witchcraft. Okay? Because I don't believe people aren't born that way. I don't believe that. So anyway, those are spirits that come upon them. So he decides, church is closing down, right? He's decided all of this. He's going to shut it down. He has Janet. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, along with Janet. So he has two biological sisters. Then he has a mother, Janet. He breaks up her house. She divorces her husband, empties out her 401k retirement account from the post office, and gives it to this Negro. She did this. Okay? Leaves her son. Well, no, she doesn't leave him. No, I'm sorry. He stays with her. Right? But she has an older sister, or daughter, I'm sorry. She has a daughter who's like 19, Christina. Okay? She brings Christina into this situation. Christina has a son, Robert, with another man that she got pregnant by in high school. Okay, Robert is like 8 months or something when I met him in the 80s. And Christina went to Bolingbrook High School. Denise and Dolores went to Romeoville High School. So Janet then gets her daughter to come in, Christina. Then she gets her other daughter too, Yolanda. Okay, we call her Pumpkin. Right? She got her to be a part of that for a little while too. But again, this is a mother getting her two daughters to be a part of a polygamist cult. Hope it makes sense. You don't love your children if you're helping them do stuff like that. You don't love your children if you're helping them be racist. You don't love your children if you're helping them to be of a hateful nature against someone else, you don't love your children. The only thing you should be teaching your children to protect themselves against is karmic energy. What's karmic energy? That says, sneak out of the house with me tonight. That's karmic energy. That says, fuck what your parents say. We're going to see each other anyway. That's karmic energy. We need to be protecting our kids from those karmic energy, from that. And not some of the other things that we think we're protecting them from. Okay. So he decides that he's going to construct this whole thing again because he doesn't want to work. He figures he could use witchcraft and live this undercover lavish life. Little does he know that Most High is in places that you and I will never ever enter. And this is the funny thing about people, humans. And most witchcraft workers are religious people. Again, he's a minister. I think it's really, really interesting that they tell you all this stuff about God, but they're actually functioning as if they don't believe it. Did that make sense? So if you do, I'm preaching to you out loud, if you do wrong, you're going to go to hell. If you do, and there's things wrong with that statement. But anyway, so I'm telling you all, right? You can do this, you're going to go, damnation, you need it. And I am secretly fucking women in the pulpit. That's actually happened. Okay? Or I am actually using a Ouija board in my church office at a church in a building that we've dedicated to Most High. You didn't dedicate it to Most High, you dedicated it to some false deity that the Bible told you about, but anyway, right? So, yeah. So, church falls apart there, decides he's going to do another church. This church was in Joliet. Okay? So we would travel from Bolingbrook to Joliet. This church was Victory Tabernacle. Ironically, it was right up the street and around the corner. It was on Collins, if I'm not mistaken, Collins Street in Joliet, Illinois. Maybe Richards. I don't know. Something. Collins. I think Collins Street. Anyway, he decided that he was going to set up this church there. Again, it did not prosper. None after Pathways for Christ, none of the churches that he set up ever prospered. None of them ever did anything. We were the only ones who were part of all of those ministries, okay? With the exception of, one other before we left Illinois. He pastored North Avenue Baptist Church in Sycamore, Illinois. That was like an hour and 20-minute drive one way. But it was good for me because it was mainly country road. And at the time, a good friend his name is Jeffrey. And he was probably 22, 3, something. And he worked for Orkin. And Jeff was definitely one of those great big brothers. He was a big guy. When I say big, he was fat. Okay. He was a big guy, right? But he was great. Just great personality, outgoing, that type of fun guy. Again, big brother type of guy, right? And I cling to him like nothing because I didn't have a big brother, right? And again, I see all these things today, and they make sense to me, right? From a spiritual standpoint and from a psychological standpoint. But I cling to him because he was a big brother, and my other big brother, quote unquote, even though I'm the eldest, was a cousin whose name is Troy. Okay, but when I moved from the projects to be with Kevin at the age of 11, 11's important, then I really lost that friendship with that cousin because I didn't have any means to get back and to be in touch with him and that sort of thing and so on and so forth. Okay, so Jeffrey kind of took this or Jeff kind of took this individual spot. In fact, they used to, him and Etienne, Janet's son, they had a nickname for me. They used to call me, what did it was something like KT with the big fondue or something like that. It was something weird. I don't know how they came up with it. That was their thing. I don't know what big fondue meant. I don't know. That was their thing. I had an uncle who used to call me Dr. Tom. Why? I don't know. He passed from, unfortunately, self-inflicted gunshot wound over a woman in his 20s. Okay. In 1992 or 3. 1990, yeah, 92 or 3. Yeah. And so, Kevin, so building this thing, okay, he decides he's going to go start another church. It wasn't prosperous. Victory Tabernacle in Joliet, Illinois, all right? And then from there, it was really just a series of failed churches, right? Then from there, he went out to, where did he go from there? Oh, from there was nothing for a long time. Okay, so from there was nothing for a long time, other than his little Bible studies at the house with the women or whatever, right? He might do a be a guest speaker somewhere, preach on a Sunday or something like that somewhere. But other than that, there was nothing consistent for a long time, right? Until Sycamore, Illinois. He's pastoring this church. It's well established. Sycamore Baptist Church has been there or North Avenue Baptist Church has been there well over 100 years now. I mean, that church has been there for, it's definitely one of those where the floors creak. Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those churches. And when I was there, some of those members have been there 60 years. And it was when I say small, it was a very small church, space-wise and population-wise, or whatever, however you would classify that. Okay, so pastor's there for a little while, again until things get hot. Once things get hot, Janet decides that she's going to leave for good and take Kevin and Crystal with her. He decides that he needs a change, and we relocate to Florida. Again, I think this was his plan the entire time. Okay, eventually getting back to Florida. Mm-hmm. So, get to Florida. Again, no church right away. It takes a while. The women trickle down to Florida. Some of them come with us right away, but the majority of them stay up there to continue to work, to send him money, to get everything set up down here, whatever, right? So, and I think they needed to sell some. He had several vehicles up there. I'm sure they probably still needed to sell some. He had 5-6 vehicles probably, at that time. And so, and we brought a van, a conversion van. We brought a conversion van. We brought a Cadillac Fleetwood and his motorcycle. That might have been it for vehicles for a minute. Yeah, that might have been it for a minute. And then one of the women drove one of his other cars down, probably, or something like that. And I don't remember what that was. Might have been their vehicle. I don't know. Yeah, their vehicle. And it was a Pontiac Sunbird. One of them was. So anyway, yes. So he decides that he's going to get here and decide eventually to start another church. Again, this church, Leesburg, Illinois, or Leesburg, Florida. Okay. And Leesburg, Florida, that church name was Millennium of Glory. Thank you, Most High. Millennium of Glory. So Millennium of Glory was in Leesburg. Okay, Leesburg and Sycamore. They used to be similar. I think Leesburg kind of is built up now. Sycamore is definitely still very much a 1,000-person population town type of thing. So anyway, so he sets up this church. Again, it doesn't grow. But by this time, I'm in the military. Okay? And then all the kids start coming. Well, at least Gen 2, I'll say that. Right? So we call them Gen 2. Kids born in, up to Amanda. Amanda was born in 1984 or 5. 4 or 5? Yeah, 4 or 5, I think. At the earliest 83. But anyway, I don't think it was 83. It was 84, 85. And so, because she's not 40 yet. And so, yeah. So anyway, he decides I was talking about the generations. So Gen 1 and Gen 2, we have it amongst ourselves. We talk about Gen 1 and Gen 2. Gen 1 is 70 and 80s kids. Gen 2 is 90s and 2000s kids. Okay? And so, although really the cutoff is really David. David, I have a brother named David. David is really, all the sons except for me have biblical names. David is that's just another distinction of me to them. That's all that is. So they have the biblical names, yet they are, and again, not all of them, but many of them, especially David, is just straight lawless, decrepit, Sodom and Gomorrah, fucking Apophis spirit. It's just sick, nasty. That's yeah. So anyway, and the girls are too. My sister Jacqueline, she, like, sex is a weapon to her. Like, she's about as out there promiscuous as you can be. When I say out there, I mean photos on social media. I mean, she's like that. In fact, I am not connected to any of them anywhere on social media. No family whatsoever. None. Not a one. On either side of the family. From Judy's or Kevin's. Okay? But anyway, so he decides, I get married in 1996. Again, he has this church. He moves it to a Popka at one point. It didn't do anything there either. But he decides, again, he's having sex in the pulpit, Ouija boards at the church, all sorts of shit going on. Okay? A man who is, you cannot tell me that you believe that the God that you pray to is real and you doing this shit. You can't tell me that the convictions that you speak about, you believe are real. You can't believe they're real if you're carrying on like this. You cannot believe the same conviction, the same things you're speaking about. They can't believe them. They can't. Right? Those songs James Cleveland was singing to God about, while he's fucking boys. Yeah, he died of AIDS. Mm-hmm. They don't believe what they're saying. Because if they did, they would not conduct themselves as such. Okay? So, he decides, every time something gets hot, every time the area gets hot, schools, whatever, we relocate. I didn't figure this out until I was an adult. Okay? A lot of this started to make sense. Again, having dreams about him as a kid, when I would be fighting him, I would just be smashing his face in. We could be on the street, in the boxing ring. We've been in the house. We've been outside, in the yard, everywhere, right? And I'm just wailing, right? As a kid, again, he was my best friend until my mid-20s. I would wake up apologizing. I'm sorry. Why am I having these dreams? I did not know that my ancestors were saying, I'm showing you right now, not only what's to come, but I'm showing you that the people who smile in your face and say, I love you, 55 minutes exactly, those are the same motherfuckers who will stab you in the back, talk bad about you, spread rumors about you, untruths. These are the same motherfuckers that will do witchcraft against you. So you have to be sharp, son, daughter. You have to stay alert, son, daughter. Okay? I didn't see that then. I was innocent in my heart, in my love, and I still am. But with boundaries today. That it still took another 40-something years for me to learn, evidently. Or 30-something years. Okay? So, I'm going to share something with you now, and this has nothing to do with him. This is just a word of encouragement. Like myself, there's someone who's listening to this, and you've looked at your life recently, and it has disappointed you when you see where you are compared to where your goals were when you first started out. When you were young and ambitious and you were like, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to get my criminal law degree, I'm going to fight for justice, I'm going to protect and serve. Whatever your goal was, if you've recently looked at your life and you've said, how the hell did I get here? I want to share something with us today. I want you to know something. And this is for me as much as it is for you. When you need to sit down, you need to take a break. Because you're running out of breath. Take a break. Take a break. We Are the World is just like ringing in my ears now. So a guy just walked by with a shirt on that says, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. So, you are the boss. There was a show in the 80s called Who's the Boss? You are the boss. Maybe somebody's name is Tony. Or Sandra. Was that her name? Sandy? Sandra? Oh man, I'm going to have to look that up. Because that's the woman's name who called me this morning. Or who wanted me to reach out to them. Very interesting. I haven't talked to her. I don't even think I did her tax returns last year. I don't think I did her 990 last year. I don't think so. It's strange that she's contacting me months after the tax deadline. That's bizarre. So somebody's contacting you months after a deadline. Somebody's late. Somebody's late. Late. Somebody's late. They ran out of time. So So yeah. So he decides, I go off into the military in 1995. March of 95. March 29th of 95. 29, born on the 29th. 29s are very important to me. Original ETS date was the 29th, was the 19th. Kidney transplant came from a past 19-year-old. Let me show you guys this. I don't know why, but this is, I painted this or colored it or whatever the other day. I drew it some time ago, but I did it the other day, and I don't know. So it's an eye, but I was just drawn to paint it. Like, I was just called to make the eye, the water, the sun in the eye, just as inspiration, you know? So yeah, so what he decided to do was he decided he wanted not just the women who he could have out here. I don't know how many billions of women older than, let's just say 25, older than 25 that there are or were in 1998. But he decides that he wants also my woman. He wants my wife, who I married in 1996. He decides that he wants her. He married us in 1996. He officiated the marriage. Okay? His name is on that fucking birth certificate. And I really do hate that. I mean, marriage certificate. Birth certificate, it's not. I guess I would hate that too. So anyway, there's something going on with a birth certificate. So anyway, yeah. So when I came down on orders, I re-enlisted. Came down on orders to go to Germany in 1998. By 1999, he and those other women had swooped in and taken my wife. And the girl that I assume is our daughter and doesn't belong to anyone else. So, yeah, that was in 99. I left for Germany in 98, but I needed to wait for housing. So I do emergency flights back. I realize I'm not going to be able to save my marriage on my second flight. So I get back to Germany, and I really just let loose. I just have I start partying 6 days a week. I was going through so much wine, I was a vineyard. Still getting up, still running miles every day, still being a soldier, still towing the line, still still sharp, still on my game, still leader, still, right? But my personal life was, that's all it was. It was shots of sake or something. I was going to say Sambuca. I don't know why I'm saying that, Sambuca. I don't know. Maybe I did drink that. But it was shots of sake and also, and this was before the club. You're just getting warmed up. And spades. That's what it was. Almost every night. And that was my release, right? And then I decided I was only going to use women for one thing, right? And that was sex. Well, my heart wouldn't let me do that. I'm not that type of person. So I just cut women out altogether for a good, well, it intended to be a good amount of time. It wasn't, but it intended to be a good amount of time, right? So he takes my wife. my daughter, our daughter, and I'm overseas. Okay? And so he then tells her everything is good up until 2003 when I get out, and I'm dating a woman at that time. I tell him I'm not coming back to your church. I'm not being a part of your ministry. I've been called to go somewhere else. That was the Rock of Central Florida in Sanford, Florida. His church was over was it in Leesburg still at that time? I think it was. Yeah. It was in Leesburg at that time. I told him I wasn't going to be returning. I wasn't teaching your men's Sunday school class, which was just my brother's. There was no one there. We could have talked about sports. It didn't matter. Really? He was probably in the office during that time fucking one of them. You know what I'm saying? At the church. Like, it didn't matter really what we were talking about. It really didn't. If I had known that back then, we probably would have been talking about something more meaningful. So anyway, then religion. Religion is meaningless. Okay? Talking about God is meaningful. Talking about all the rules and regulations and all of that bullshit, that right there is meaningless. Okay? Not telling you that there are other books that are not shared with you, that's meaningful. Only giving you 66 and saying this is all that there is, that right there is meaningless. Okay? So, he said, Kevin did, okay? And all this time, Judy's following behind him. She's in and out of his relation, out of my visibility, I will say. I don't know about his, because he stays in touch with people that I don't even, long down the road, he stays in touch with people that I probably think he don't stay in touch with. Okay? So, from like high school and all of that sort of thing, by the way, he was involved sexually with the music teacher at Lockport High School. Okay? His name is Mr. I want to say Mr. Gathers, but that might not be correct. No. It'll come to me. I'll get it. Yeah, I'll get it. But his piano teacher, okay? Or music teacher, okay? Again, very talented person, Kevin is. Very talented. Okay? Bachelor's degree, master's degree, and I believe he has a doctorate today. He got that before he was incarcerated in 2014. Right? So, if he did. So very, very smart, okay? In fact, he graduated, he was the valedictorian of his graduating class. Very, very smart, okay? He decided, plays like 7 instruments. Just ridiculously talented, but just wasted it. Even though he's still physically living, as far as I know, he's just wasted it. Okay? By again creating all of these atomic bombs and setting up these minefields everywhere and in people's lives. This is what he did. Okay? He turned 67 today. That is a 13. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. The Scorpio that I was involved with that sent me through the dark night of the soul and closed out this entire karmic cycle, caused me to clear out my karmic bloodline and kicked me into my full, well, not into my full, I did the work, but kicked me into what was going to be the biggest spiritual awakening of my lifetimes here. Okay? That Scorpio was born on November 13th. Again, the money that Sandra got from the former client, from the law office, that was donated to her for the truck, $26,000. That's 1313. Okay. Steve Parker, the senior minister at the Rock of Central Florida, and the prophet, quote unquote, there, both born on the 26th of the month. They were both born on 11/26, 7 years apart. Exact same date and month. That's 13/13. The Scorpio started going there the weekend that they had their 20th anniversary. I left in my 20th year after my eyes were open. And Steve wouldn't believe the lies that were being told to him by the Scorpio. Or he believed the lies, that were being told to him by the Scorpio. And whoever else. So, right. So anyway, he takes my wife, right? And then by the time I get out of the military, he convinces her in 2003 that the only way I can see my daughter is if I go see him or go to his house. Confirmation with that dog bark. So I go see him. The last time I saw my daughter Kim up until 2010 was 2003. Yes, 2003. Yep, 7 years. It was 2003. Again, that's important. Kidney transplant. 7777. It's 11111 on the timer. I don't even know if I said all the ones. Like 111111. 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. Excuse me, confirmation birth. So kidney transplant 7771, 7717 from spell work that he did that caused a rare autoimmune virus that man could not cure, but Most High had an answer. And he was not just going to give an answer. He was going to say it as loud as possible. He was going to stamp a 7717 on a kidney transplant. Confirmation. So Most High turned that around and used it for his glory, right? And again, he wanted me to disappear. He was praying that I got sent back off to war and all of that. Again, Most High had other plans. Most High miraculously got me out. I was in the military a year past my ETS date because I was in military intelligence school. Most High miraculously got me out. I didn't have to lie, cheat, steal, beg, or anything. It was offered to me. Again, because I was held beyond my ETS date. Okay? Ultimately, he flees Florida and makes it up to Michigan, but not before starting to mess with his own children. Yes, you heard me correctly. Not before starting to mess with his own children. And that probably goes back further than I even know. Okay? Yep. That probably goes back further than I even know. Understanding the Apophis spirit, the Azazel spirit, the Sodom and Gomorrah type of energy, these energies know who to approach and who not to approach. So he knew the children he could approach and the ones he could not approach. He knew. So he approached my brother Matthew, who was weak, vulnerable, and a follower. And a lot of that was due to what he dealt with as a toddler, he was in a coma for lack of nutrition for 3 days, confirmation with the rev of the car. He was in a coma for 3 days because Judy didn't care right for him. Then electrical cord shock because she wasn't watching him. Again, she didn't pay careful attention to him at all. He had a very bad childhood. And then he was raped as a child. That's why one of my goals is to have the Matthew J. Campbell Foundation. And it's going to be specifically focused on helping children who are sexually molested. Okay? That guy was never charged. Judy never did shit. She's a sorry-ass motherfucker. I'm seeing that more and more every day. She's a sorry-ass motherfucker. When he died under suspicious circumstances. They said it was suicide. There is no way that that was suicide. He was in a prison since 2002. There was no way he would decide in 2021 that he's all of a sudden going to commit suicide. It was either witchcraft or something that was being done to him physically on the inside that's being hidden. And again, Pensacola, Florida area, prison, okay? He messed with him. Matthew would never testify against Kevin. Okay? For whatever reason. So, in 2010, the FBI busts down the door. And again, over the years, he's just accumulating women. Matriculating. Did I use that word? I say words that I don't even know the definition of. Most High just drops them. And those of you who are high vibration, you know that's true. You're like, what is that word? And you have to go look it up. And it confirms that it's right. But you have to second get like, what? What is that? Right? Words you don't even know how to spell. Right? So he, again, is prostituting these women, not on the street, but they are going to work. He doesn't have a job. They're having all of these children. They're birthing these children. And he's just sitting at home collecting paychecks for 30-something years. I had a dream one time, and tell this dream. I don't think I had told this dream, even in the journals. I think this is in an older journal. So I remember I had this dream. And I'm sure I told it during the my Polygamist family videos from last year. Again, those were the earliest videos. I had this dream. In this dream, we were all leaving the house, me and several of the women that I recognize. So there's a woman named Shanita, who Janice, actually, the woman who left him with Kevin and Crystal, who had Kevin and Crystal, she ended up leaving, like I said, in 1989, 1990. She introduced Shanita to the situation. Shanita, again, they worked at AT&T together in Naperville, Illinois. Shanita, or Wheaton maybe, or something. Shanita was like a mathematician. He dumbed her down so much. You can look up records for Pathways for Christ and you can see Shanita's name on it, right? For registered companies and all that, or businesses, organizations and all that. Florida, Illinois, you can see her name all over stuff on public record, right? She was like a mathematician. He has done, and Holy Spirit showed me this the other day. He took her, and this is what the enemy wanted to do to me. He took her and you. The enemy wanted to take us and dumb us down so much to the point to where we would be crawling on the ground and picking out of trash cans. He dumbed her down that much. That much. I'm talking about a super smart woman. The woman he took from the brother's girlfriend that ended up moving in with him, she became his punching bag for 30 years. Her name is Yolanda. She also grew up in Lockport, Illinois, and went to Downers Grove. Real live events, real live people. And she was his punching bag for 30-something years. She left him temporarily after we got to Florida and ended up getting pregnant by some guy. She came back to him pregnant. She had the baby, and that's the girl that he got pregnant. And knowing him, he did it out of vindication, being vindictive. Right? The ultimate narcissist. And I remember sharp dresser, very sharp dresser. I remember people in school, people would comment when he would come and pick me up or come to events. People would comment, all the girls, especially high school, especially once I got to high school. Oh, he's so nice. Is that your brother? And blah, 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 right? Right? The greatest pimp I have ever known. Greatest pimp I will. People be like, I'm a player. I'm be like, sit your ass down. You ain't no player. You want a player? You see that one? Now, granted, yes, he's serving 40 to 60 years. It wasn't worth it. But let me tell you something. Do you want to know a play? That right there, that's a player. You got 8 to 10 women going out on the street, quote unquote, to legal jobs to work for you and bring you their paycheck, and you give them an allowance out of their pay. You take them to pay less and you go to the mall. Shit, yeah. They buying your cars and your houses. Terrence Howard, that character ain't got nothing on him. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing. So, in 2010, Jacqueline, one of my sisters, decides that she's going to tell a teacher about this because he's starting to mess with her, or has been. When she does this, of course, the teacher contacts authorities and they begin an investigation, at which time the FBI or whatever other government agencies were involved bust down this door in like Tempe, Ohio or something like that, in the middle of nowhere, somewhere. It might not have even been as large as Tempe. It might have been some other place, okay? It was around the Bowling Green area. So, which is interesting because I was very closely related to a family that came from Bowling Green, Ohio, that was at the Rock. Again, it's like a spider web, and it just keeps linking. It just keeps linking. Like there's one link that links this. I went to Houston when I was 11. Guess who was in Houston? And they were 21. Steve Parker, the senior minister at the Rock of Central Florida that I would meet in 2003. And I started getting cassette tapes from in 2002. Has anyone else mapped their life out like this? Or is anyone seeing their life like this? Let me know. Okay? And so, because I really do believe all of our lives look like this. There's just this web, and it's just link. It's connecting the dots. And as you connect these dots, this picture forms, right? But only after the ascension, connecting the dots is the hard part. Because that's the work. And that's the tedious work. Because you got to find the dot. Then you got, is that the right? Nope, that's not. Because it's not numbered. It's not like the ones you get in a book. They're just dots. Okay? It's not paint by numbers. Okay? And so it's a blank canvas. So you're painting, right, these dots on it. And you can, no, that doesn't look right. Nope. So you try this one. Nope. You erase that line. You erase this line. But then ultimately, hopefully, through ascensions, through awakenings, this picture starts to develop. And what this picture starts to look like, when you get done with those, you get to a point to where you can start to use some color, right? Brighten things up, right? Maybe darken some things out, right? Get to a point to where you can do that. And then you have this beautiful, tapestry, beautiful work of art. That's you. That's me. But in order to do that, we have to do a lot of stuff that we don't, our mind doesn't want to do. Letting people go that no longer serve our good. That is something that is tough to do, especially if we are family oriented or we are you are an empath or one of your healing resources is unconditional love, like myself, then you might find it difficult to leave people, right? So I don't find it difficult to leave people unless that's a good question for me to ask myself. When do I find it a challenge to leave people? Because I don't. In 99% of the cases, 99.999% of the cases, I didn't find it hard to stop talking to Kevin. I didn't find it hard to stop talking to Judy. I didn't find it. She didn't even say I loved you the last time I saw her, and I was leaving the state and had no idea where I was going. I'm supposed to be her eldest son. She didn't even say that. That's the first time she's not ever told me that. I could drop her off from the grocery store, and when I leave, she hugs me and she says, I love you. She did not say that. I gave her all of her stuff that she had left at my house. I gave it to her in a box. She did not say that. You can't tell me that's not a coincidence. That's a coincidence. You can't tell me that it is, because it's not. Okay? And she hasn't reached out. She hasn't attempted to contact me. These are the indications that saves lives. These are the indications that save lives. You want to know who loves you? Give it some time and see who reaches out to you. Okay? Give it some time. I have not heard from Steve. I spent 20 years with that man. I have not heard from anyone in my family. No one. Siblings, parents, aunts, uncles, nobody. Nobody. And if they wanted to get in touch with me, they could. They could. Okay? So, thank you so much again. This has been, again, I just wanted to come on here and for his birthday, wanted to share with you his story and how he got to where he is. There were several of us, one of the women who left in 2009, myself, the girl now she's a lady, the woman he got pregnant, well, I shouldn't say a lady, she's a woman, she's a female, there's a difference, she's not a lady, we were going to testify against him. And Jacqueline, the girl who originally spoke to the teacher back in 2010. And this was in 2014. Originally, the charges were dropped because Jacqueline was a minor, and they scared her in 2010. Well, she wasn't a minor. She was just afraid. She was like 13 or 14, and she was afraid. Okay? But 4 years later, she was 17, 16, something like that. And, the cases were brought back, were reopened, and that's when it was going to go to trial. So flew out to Detroit and everything. And it was great to see them. That was the last time I've seen them. I haven't seen them since. And, I didn't exchange words with him. It was just me talking to the judge. He was sitting there, of course. So was the woman who left me for him. She was there. And I told the judge, I said, I don't care. All I'm asking is that you don't send my daughter or let my daughter stay with them. You can release her to her grandparents or whatever. I will take her. I don't think she wants to come with me, but that's okay. And she didn't want to go with me. Kim. She didn't want to go. Oh, by the way, Kimberly is a name that keeps coming up. I know I met someone in a chat some time ago on YouTube, and their name is Kimberly or Kim. I don't know their last name, but I know that I had a Kim shortly after that subscribed, and they are still a subscriber. So if that's that Kim, even if it's not, if that's that Kim, I hope you're doing well. Hope things are going good. I think if it is that Kim, you have a child, maybe two. Hope they're doing well and all is going good with that. Again, we met sometime like last year or something, and I know that there was a Kim who subscribed, and I think it was that Kim. But again, now that I say Kim, that's the Kim that comes to mind. I think the last name starts with a K. I don't know. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. There's also a Kim Kerner Parker, right? That's Steve's wife. At the Rock of Central Florida. So thank you so much anyway for tuning in. My name's Nehru. You've been tuned into The Encourager. The reason why I do what I do is, first of all, because it's the desire I have for myself, and with that unconditional love, I take that love and I desire to share my discoveries with us. I desire to heal us. I desire to show us a better way of dealing with it. And not just the better way, the best way to deal with. And that's not to say I only know the best way. Trust me, I am learning shit every day. Learning about my ancestry, learning about my spirituality, learning where I come from, learning about other lifetimes here, and looking that information up and making note about that information and how in this generation, again, one of the helpful things about when you decide, or if you decide to look into your life, is past lives, is your occupation or your purpose. I'll say your purpose. Your purpose really has not changed from lifetime to lifetime. I've always been a philosopher. I've always been a spiritual leader. I've always been one that thought outside the box, whether that was a lifetime when I was an inventor of something physical or I was a spiritual guide or teacher of some sort. I've always been that type of leader. I've always been a leader. I've always been a solo artist. I've always been okay to go alone. I've always kept a small circle. I've always been that type of person. In every lifetime here, I've been that individual. Okay? In large part. Okay? There might be different varying degrees. So for instance, in this lifetime, because I passed or I was unalived or whatever at this age, maybe I didn't get as far in lifetime 3 that I did in lifetime 2, but you know what I'm saying, right? So, but the purpose for me being here has been the same, and this is why high vibrational divine beings, this is why things are so intense this lifetime around, because they've just been building upon another. So you've gotten a little more knowledge, a little more knowledge, a little more wisdom, a little more wisdom, a little more knowledge, a little more knowledge, a little more wisdom, a little more wisdom, a little more knowledge, and it's just right over lifetime over lifetime. And so now that it's built up to where it is today, those of us who are on our 8th, 9th, 10th lifetime here, a lot of us are ready. Okay? A lot of us are ready. And ready for what? Ready for us to walk into our proverbial promised land. Us ready to walk into our whatever that is, whatever that looks like, whatever your greatest hopes and dreams are. Those of us who are in those later lifetimes, we are ready for that. We're poised for that. 133 on the timer. 133.10. We're poised for that. Okay? So thank you so much again, as always, for tuning in. My name is Nehru. This is The Encourager. If you would like to get in touch with me, all of my contact information, social media, connections and all that can be made through the links that are included in the information section of this video. My purpose here as an earth angel, Egyptian shaman, father of the Orisha, my purpose here, descendant Gaia, descendant of Yeshua, is to help us all raise our vibration. Okay? And why do I mention all those names? Because you have multiple names too. I'm thinking of the Dikembe Mutombo. You know what I mean? He has like 7 names. Right? For those of you who do not know, Dikembe Mutombo, he's the infamous basketball player who's a great defender, a great shot blocker, but he was known for waving his finger in the face of Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan getting his say back with a dunk in his face, and then waving his finger in his face, right? That's one of those infamous sports plays of all time kind of thing, right? So, so Dikembe Mutombo has like 7 names. You have like 7 names. Okay? You are like 7 beings. Right? So again, thank you as always. New subscribers, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. We are growing, and again, growing rapidly. To me, it's rapidly, right? Because the first year it was definitely a trickle up until the last couple of months. Okay, and so thank you so much as always. Love you. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and tune in again. We will be back to the angel numbers and that again soon. I just wanted to come on right now and share again, because of his birthday, his journey, how he got to where he is, what that looks like, and how something that sounds like a fallacy can actually be real, okay? So truth is stranger than fiction. Thank you so much as always, and be encouraged.